What is up, Insaners, and welcome to our deadline stream for Game Week 33. Now, lots of stuff, guys, coming up in this one. And how are you guys doing, first of all? How was your game week? I know the last game week just very recently ended, and we've not had a lot of time to kind of assess what happened, how the other players did, how our team did. There have been some injuries, so there's a lot that's happened in the past 24 hours, including the last game, which was Leicester's game. So we're going to talk about all the fixtures in Game Week 33, and we'll also touch upon the teams that are blanking this week, which is Spurs and Man City, majorly these two teams. Then we'll also be looking at some exciting players. We've kind of covered this bit on our Instagram during through different posts, but we'll try to assess and cover some important players that we want to focus on for this week, as well as look at them for the coming game weeks. Now, guys, please do drop in your questions or whatever topics you want to discuss in today's stream. I want to really make it very interactive. So whatever questions you have regarding captaincy, regarding transfers, regarding football in general, please feel free to drop those in the comments and we'll touch upon everything as we move along. Also, if you're new around here, guys, please make sure that you like today's video. Also, subscribe to our channel for all the FPL stuff. We've been doing this for some time now. It's been a really good journey so far. We've got some great response. We've got some really good feedback, and obviously, we are improving with every passing week. So love your feedback. Love whosoever has subscribed to our channel so far. And we generally do videos on best place to target, sometimes on differential picks when we have certain differentials which are looking really good for the coming weeks. We also do our regular team selection videos, and we generally do our top captain picks for every week. And in that also we have like different categories in terms of popular captains, differential captains, as well as some 1 week punts as well. So that is what we cover. Obviously, in the coming game weeks, we're gonna do a lot more stuff. Plus, always are open to feedback and always open to ideas in terms of what we can do to improve our next season as well, because there'll be a lot of content. In fact, I'm gonna talk about a small surprise that I'm planning for the next season, and I think it's going to be a really interesting thing for all of you who are playing FPL for a long time. Even for the people who are playing FPL for the first time this season, I think that's going to be really important, and I'm going to drop that somewhere in middle. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll start off with today's video. I see a lot of questions already coming in. If you haven't typed your question, please do so that we can cover those topics. Hey Devina, hi. Thank you for the question. Yeah. So the first question, and I think the first topic that is really important for this week, and I think a lot of people, in fact, I've got a lot of DMs in the last a couple of hours regarding this, that whether Jota is going to start this week or not, because I assume that there was a rumor, floating around Twitter, and nothing was there on the official Liverpool site, and nothing was really said in Klopp's comments in the press. But there was a conversation floating around in the Twitter community, in the football community, whether Jota is injured for this week or not. So Klopp very recently had his has it presser, so he mentioned in the comments that Jota should be fine. Now again, these comments have to be taken with a pinch of salt, because you really don't know whether he's going to start against Newcastle or not, right? He has been in decent form. He has been showing decent progress. His attacking numbers have looked good. So ideally, if he's fit, I think he should start. But even if there was, some sort of truth in whatever conversation that was floating around, then Klopp might not risk him. Though Liverpool don't really have a lot to play, right? Apart from the top four spot or the four Champions League spot that they are eyeing for, I don't think so there's anything else left to play. So he still might take that chance. But in case if he is, a little injured, and he probably picked up a knock somewhere sometime in the last match, or probably sometime in training, I think then there's a possibility that Jota might not start the game. He might be on the bench. I really don't think that he's not going to feature at all. So even if you have him in your team, because a lot of us have Jota in our teams, right? And we were kind of waiting for that final information on whether he's injured or whether he's going to start or play, right? So in terms of his starting, we still don't know whether it's going to happen or not. But I think if you have him, so you should definitely play him. He's also a good hold, to be very honest, right? Because the next coming fixtures for Liverpool are pretty decent. I think next is Man United, so that's going to be a bit tricky. But apart from that, I think it is a pretty good run. I personally feel that they are favourites to finish in the top four, right? So I think Jota is still a good pick and a good player to own and to retain for the coming weeks. So yeah, so I think Jota might might start, but he definitely will feature, in the game against Newcastle. Hey Akshat, hi. Ansh is asking, Iheanacho captain. I think there was a slight change, and if you've been following our team and my team on Twitter, as well as on Instagram, I think you'll notice that my earlier captaincy punt or my early captaincy pick was on Mo Salah, and after Klopp's comments, I think I was thinking about a lot. I saw a couple of pods. I heard a couple of podcasts as well, and I kind of realized that it might not be very straightforward, because if Phillips, so first of all, Phillips is not playing. Mostly, he's not playing in this game, right? And that is what Klopp has already kind of fixated upon. So I think that's out of the window. So Phillips is not playing in this particular game. Now, what that does for the Liverpool team is that there's a huge possibility that Fabinho might start, or Fabinho might play in defense, right? So Fabinho is definitely going to start, but he might play in defense. Now, when that happens, there's a huge gap that Fabinho kind of takes away, and then having him in defense is obviously not a very great thing for defense, because Liverpool defense generally, whenever they've played with Henderson, the likes of Henderson and Fabinho in defense, right, they've generally struggled, because these guys are not defenders, right? They are CDMs, and they're defensive midfielders, but I won't classify them as defenders. So if Phillips is not playing and then Fabinho comes back into the centre back role, then this match might not be as comfortable as all of us are thinking, right? I don't see this game as Liverpool thrashing Newcastle by 3 or 4 goals. I see this probably a 1-0 or a 2-0. I don't think so. Newcastle's attack has improved a lot, but the defensive numbers are still poor, and I don't feel, or I don't think that Newcastle will be able to contain and manage a clean sheet in this game. Having said that, Salah is still a very good option. He's definitely going to be the most popular option this week. So if you want to play safe, if you are not really doing a lot of catch up, and if you are ahead in your mini leagues, if you want to retain that place, and if you don't really want to take a lot of risks, so I think Salah is still a good option. But I think for me personally, I'm at 57,000 right now in terms of rank, right? So my idea and my intention is to at least reach the top 10k, and if I have to go there and if I have to reach there, I think it's really important to take some calculated risks. Now, when I say calculated risk, I'm obviously not going to captain a Brighton defender, for example, though they still have a possibility of a clean sheet, right, in this week. But I'm still not going to make those kind of decisions. But I think Iheanacho against Crystal Palace is a very good option, because Crystal Palace is, I think, one of the fewer teams in the league right now which they don't really have a lot to play for, right? We don't expect them to go down this season for sure, because I think Fulham have definitely made things very difficult for themselves, and they are still a lot ahead of the other teams. So I don't think so there's any risk there, and I don't even see them climbing up the table and probably going into the top 10 as well, right? So they don't really have a lot. Their away form and their away, generally the way they play away is not that great, and that doesn't give me a lot of confidence from a Crystal Palace point of view. Now, when I come to Leicester, I think Iheanacho has been one of the surprises of the season, right? So initially when we started the season, I don't think so any one of us expected Iheanacho to be playing like this, or to be actually taking away the goals from Vardy and taking the mantle of goal scoring for Leicester, right? So, and he's been in great form. If you look at his underlying numbers, if you look at his goal attempts, if you look at his chances created, which also talks about his creativity in the team, right? So all of these numbers are very promising, and I feel he still would do well. He's been doing really well over the past few weeks. So I think there's a good chance that Leicester probably scored 3 or 4 goals in this game, and Vardy though scored in the last game, so that was a huge relief, I think, for all the Vardy owners. And I think he's one of the players that I'm really scared of not having in this particular week, because the fixture is such, right? I tried getting him in my team. I think I was falling short by a zero point 0.1 or zero point 0.2 million. So I couldn't get him in the team for this week. But I think Iheanacho is a very good option. Then that's why I changed my mind. And this was not really last minute, but yeah, I think in the last hour I've been thinking about this a lot. And I realized probably if I want to take a few risks and if I want to jump a few ranks, I think I'll have to definitely try to do something different and not go the safer way, right? And Iheanacho is probably one of the best options there. Trent in place of Shaw. So that's a definite Trent. I would definitely want Trent in my team. And that's been one of my transfers for this week. I had Phillips, and I was a bit doubtful about whether he's going to start, whether he's going to be benched, whether he's probably not going to be, even be in the squad. So my transfer from the very beginning was very clear. I think this was something that I should have done when I played my wildcard, but I think there were a couple of other transfers that I was planning in my team, and because of that, I wasn't able to do that. But I think Trent, definitely having Trent in the team is the way to go, because he's hands down the best defender in the league right now in terms of underlying numbers, in terms of how he's performed, and his numbers have actually been very good. He's top for chances created in the last 6 game weeks, so and that's more than Shaw. That's, I think, 3 or 4 more than Shaw. Shaw has been very consistent this season. He's not had a lot of time out of the team, and obviously there has been rotation with United's Europa League campaign also going on, right? But he's still featured in a couple of games there as well. I think if possible, I would want to have both, and I definitely have both of them in my team. But if you have to really choose between the two, I think Trent definitely would be a better option if you have the funds, because a lot of people, the main reason for going to Phillips for a lot of people is because they don't have the money, right? And they want to kind of secure the Liverpool clean sheet. That's again not a very very obvious case, because Liverpool overall has struggled in defense this season, right? So it's not that straightforward, but I think in terms of underlying numbers, Trent is just about overpowering Shaw in the last few weeks. So I think if you have to have a choice between the two, I think Trent is a good option, but I would ideally want to have both in my team. Hey Jake, thanks for the question. What do you think about Traore as a Gundogan replacement? Um, I think Gundogan definitely has to be replaced, right? Don't see him playing every game for sure in the coming few weeks, because there's going to be a lot of rotation. So I think that one's pretty clear and pretty obvious that we are expected, and we are kind of thinking to let go of all the Man City players that we have, whether it's defenders or whether it's midfielders. Now, bringing Traore in the team is, again, I still feel there are better options. Again, depending on how much budget you have. If you have some extra budget, obviously you can go up till the likes of Lingard. You can also go to the likes of Jota. Obviously, these are a little more popular, so they would have higher ownership. So in case if you're looking for a rank gain, you might not find that kind of a rank gain with these players. Having said that, the likes of Lingard, a lot of people have been talking about him overperforming, not really going for Lingard in the last few weeks, because they're expecting that his stats and his numbers might go down. And I definitely see that as a possibility. I don't think so. He can sustain that kind of a form. He has to dip at some moment or at some point. But I still feel there are better options if you have the budget. You can also, in fact, I would say that you could also go for the likes of Traore, right? He's also a good punt. He's been doing well over the past few weeks. Wolves, again, is not a team that is generally known for their attacking threat, right? They are, a lot of people have considered their defenders, considering what kind of run they've been having, and they also have a good couple of games at least in the next few weeks. So I think Adama Traore can also be a very good option. I don't think so. His ownership is also very very high. It has to be, I think, around the 4 to 5% mark. So he provides a very good and an explosive option. So he's pretty decent. I personally won't go for Traore. I think the fixtures for Villa don't really look that great in the longer run. Again, it depends on what kind of time frame or what kind of games are you planning this move for, right? If you're looking at the next 2 to 3 weeks, and if you're looking at this week in particular, I think the West Brom fixture is pretty good. There is a good chance that Aston Villa score in this particular game. But I think overall, I feel that the next few games, which is Everton, then Man United, then I think there is Crystal Palace again. That's a fixture that you can definitely target. But I think overall, I feel there are better options available. European Super League, Akshat. So I'm in fact planning to make a video on this, solely on this. So a lot happened. I think in the last week or so, there was so many conversations. There were so many hate groups. There was so much chaos happening in football overall, and I personally also kind of felt the same, that what has football come to right now, because I just didn't understand the meaning of the European Super League. It was tough to digest as a fan. I think even if you're not a Premier League fan, or even if you're not a fan of any of the Premier League clubs, right? Even if you just follow football and you've been just casually following football, I think you'll still kind of not understand the motive behind the whole league, right? The big and the top performing clubs, or I would say the big six, the traditional big six of Premier League and some other, leagues as well, they coming together and then getting into a league. I think it was more of a. I first thought that it's more of a power play that these clubs are trying to put on against the Champions League, because generally they haven't been happy with Champions League, right? The kind of prize money that is there in the Champions League, the kind of travel that they have to do, the fixtures that are there, right? And then they obviously have to play Premier League on the weekends. So that is not really, that's not really helped a lot of teams, especially during the pandemic and the COVID times. So I think there's a lot that can be done, but I definitely don't think European Super League was a solution to this. The feeling of promotion, the feeling of getting into the Champions League, the feeling of winning a Premier League. Somebody is underrated like a Leicester or Blackburn, if you followed the 90s. These kind of teams winning leagues, and these kind of a lot of new teams getting promoted. So we would never see the likes of Sheffield, or never see the likes of Leeds, or probably some other teams coming up and performing this well and surprising a lot of people in England, or across the world. So I think that was totally a shambles. I don't really understand again why it happened and what happened. I'll be doing a separate video on that. Let me know your thoughts as well, in terms of what was your take on the whole European Super League, and it's kind of open to everyone, because I'm sure you would have had some opinion about what has happened in the league, and what can go wrong, right? Because if obviously if these kind of clubs do not remain in the main leagues that they play for, I don't think so the leagues would have the same meaning, because of purely because of the ownership, because of the fans that are there across the world. It's not even England, right? Because I saw a lot of videos where people in UK, people in Britain, they were talking about how it's going to affect them. There have been generations of their families that have followed football, have supported their clubs, and the kind of humble backgrounds these clubs were started from, right? So all of that was at a huge risk. And but I also feel that it's gonna it would have impacted world football on a larger scale, because I personally like to see, let's say, when I talk about Premier League, right? Because I've been watching and I've been following Premier League for the past 15 odd years, right? So when I talk about leagues, I would not want to see the likes of Arsenal and Tottenham playing Real Madrid, getting beaten probably by 2 or 3 goals every week, or in a couple of weeks every time. That's not really gonna bring a lot of excitement. We see the likes of teams like Burnley this season scoring a lot of goals, which has not really happened over the past few years. We see the likes of Sheffield United doing really well, and now next season they're getting relegated, right? So I would want to see these kind of games. The one thing that I really like about Premier League, and I think a lot of people would agree to me here, is that in the Premier League, it's not really sure. They're not sure victories. You have to fight. You have to work. You have to work really hard. You have to train really hard, and you still don't know who's gonna win, right? Every time, every week, we see a lot of surprises in the league, that a very lower ranked team, or a relegation threatened team has probably beaten a Man City, for example, right? There was a phase where Wolves was consistently beating Man City, and that was very, very recent, right? So we won't see all of these things, and I think this is why we follow football. This is why we follow Premier League. This is why we also look up to different big teams in the world. So I think overall, I think it's a very good decision. A lot of footballers, a lot of players, in fact, Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, the likes of these players who have been loyal supporters and loyal players of these clubs, they came out and they gave their opinions. A lot of managers also came out. Pep, if you've seen Pep's interview, if you've not, definitely see his interview, in terms of what he spoke, and what were his comments about the whole league and about the whole system. So I think overall it was a very good decision of not having it. I was a bit scared that what will happen to football if this thing starts. So, but yeah, I think overall a pretty good decision to not start that league. And I actually thought that it will be a difficult thing to pull this off, because the fans and the players are not generally gonna agree to this kind of a proposition. Uh, they were top defenders to target this week. So I think one of my biggest priority transfers, which I have already done this week, is Trent. I think he's a very good transfer uh, for this week as well as for the coming few weeks. Next week it's Man United, so I think there is a chance that they might not be a clean sheet for sure, and even the attacking threat probably is a bit reduced. from Trent's point of view. But I think overall they look really good. They also look good from a clean sheet point of view. So I think there are points to be won there, and there is huge upside, right? Because though Trent comes at a huge price and he's expensive, it's not easy to get Trent. I think for a lot of you would have to take a couple of hits. You would have to downgrade a premium player, or you will have to make money somewhere else to afford him, right? If that's the case, I think you should definitely look into it and get him as soon as possible, because his numbers are crazy. Like he's getting onto that kind of a run where it's very difficult not to have him, and you'll lose a lot. In fact, you'll actually lose a lot by not having him in your team. I think other defenders, a lot of people have been talking about Wolves defenders, and I still think they look good for the next couple of weeks. This week I'm not really sure whether they're going to keep a clean sheet, because Burnley's attacking numbers have also improved. They're not the traditional Burnley who sit back deep and they defend for almost 90 minutes of the game. So I don't think so that's going to happen. But I think in general, Burnley have a chance of scoring in that one. So that might not be a clean sheet, but I think overall they still look good for the next few weeks. And probably you can carry them forward, and you can till game week 35, and you can look at some other defenders, probably a Leeds defender, probably someone like a Dallas for the last 2-3 games, right? Because I think Wolves are facing Tottenham, Everton, and the last game is against Man United. Yeah, so I think those are tough games. But apart from that, you can definitely have them against Burnley. Then the next game is West Brom. In 34, they're playing West Brom, right? So that could also be a good game to have a Wolves defender. I think apart from that, Leicester defense, I'm not sure. I think a lot of people have kind of missed the boat, or not really having a conversation about the Leicester defense. But I still feel there are a couple of options if you have the money, right? Because I have for me, I have a Marte in my team, and he's not a regular starter for sure. I just bought him as a fifth defender who probably has a chance to play, who might play a couple of games, and if he gives me a clean sheet, I think at a price of around 3.9 to 4 million, a clean sheet is gold, right? Like you would die for any kind of moments like those. So I think, but if you have budget, if you have the money, I think players like Amate, sorry, not players like Castagna, players like Pereira, these players look good. Obviously, they come at a premium price, and Pereira has not been performing that great. His numbers have looked okay, nothing great. Castagna has been the better defender among the two. I think he's probably the same price, or might be a point one or point two cheaper as well, right? So just look into that. They're good defenders if you are on a budget, and if you are very tight on money. So I think Fofana is also a decent option. A lot of people were asking me whether he's injured because he was substituted earlier in the last game, right? So I don't think so. There's any injury. He was just on his fast, and imagine the commitment of that player, right? Like he still played that whole game. He was about to play the whole game. He was definitely taken off around, I think, around the 60-minute mark. So, but there's no injury, to be very honest. So you don't need to get worried in that regard. And I think he's a pretty good option. He's a nailed starter in that team. So I think you could definitely go for him as well. Right. So these are some decent options. I think Shaw in my team. I have Shaw in my team. So I think that he's also a good option. United's games are not that straightforward. They are a bit tricky. So you can look at other defenders as well. But I think Shaw, in terms of attacking output, is also a very good option. Ansh, you're asking Bruno, Shaw along with Jota and Salah combination, or Trent, Greenwood along with Jota and Salah. I think I personally feel that Trent and Greenwood is a better option. I think there's more upside in both options. I think Bruno is definitely more owned. So it totally depends, to be very honest, right? So if I can talk about my perspective, and I can talk in general what could be the view. So let's say in general, if you are a safe player, if you don't like to take a lot of risk, because majority of the FPL players are like that, right? You probably would have a couple of punts, or you might not even have those, but you would want to get a consistent score every week. With Bruno, for majority of the season, I think we've kind of achieved that. In the past few weeks, his returns have been inconsistent. He's not returned a lot. In fact, they have been very difficult, and get owning him at that price also becomes a bit tricky, because you see the likes of Greenwood, who's been doing really well, right? And there's a lot more value, there's a lot more upside. If you ask me, I would definitely go for Greenwood, and I have Greenwood in my team. I in fact did that same move. I didn't have Bruno Fernandes for, I think, 3 to 4 weeks, and I didn't really lose much, to be very honest, because he's not been returning, right? So, and then I planned to get a Man United player. I was considering the likes of Rashford as well, but Rashford has been carrying on, a slight injury, and this week he's not trained as well, so I don't think so. He's probably in contention to even be in the squad for this one. But otherwise, I think the combination of Trent and Greenwood is a better combination. I think the attacking returns, I would still say attacking returns in terms of the assist and the creative output. Shaw and Trent are pretty close. Trent is the better defender right now. He's he's probably the informed defender as well. Plus, he also has better fixtures, right? So if you can afford that combination, I think Trent and Greenwood is definitely the one to go for. Akshat, I definitely think that Iheanacho is a bit risk. It's not that straightforward. I still feel, I still see that game has 2+ goals for sure. I'll be surprised, and again, it's a Premier League, right? So anything can happen. But I assume and I believe that Iheanacho is gonna do well in that game. Uh, Vardy is coming back in form. I don't think so. He was ever out of form, to be very honest. He's not made a lot of runs. He's not made a lot of attacking runs. He's not taking a lot of shots. He's still shooting. There's not. It's not that he's not. He's been totally out of form, because if you see his creative numbers, right, he's turned into more of a creative output for Leicester than scoring the goals himself. Earlier, what used to happen? People like Perez, people like Madison, people like Barnes, they used to feed Vardy and he used to finish those chances. But now what's happening? All of those chances with Iheanacho and Vardy playing together, all of those chances are going to Iheanacho, right? And he's a poacher. He's a good finisher by trait. So that's why he's getting all the goals. So I think Vardy is still not hasn't been out of form. So I won't really say that he's coming into form. He's been playing pretty decent and his numbers support that, right? But I think he's taken more of a creative role, and that really tilts the ball in favor of Iheanacho. And plus, I feel the value that he's having, right? Because I think a couple of weeks back, not many people had Iheanacho. I think right now his overall ownership would be around 20%, but I don't think so. This was probably even 8 to 9%, or probably even 10% a few weeks back, right? So a lot of people are jumping onto him. He's a good differential captain, right? As I mentioned earlier, that if I want to take a few risks, I think I would want to go for Iheanacho. I probably won't go for the safer option in Salah for whatever reasons I've already mentioned. So I definitely feel and know that that's a risk. I'm not denying that, but I still feel that with whatever I'm planning for my team, I think this could be a good move, and this could be a good week to get a decent score from Iheanacho. Uh, and the second part of the question is that it can hurt my rank. So yeah, I think if, let's say, if Salah does really well, or even if Vardy does really well, right? I think more than Vardy, I think it'll be Salah if he does well, because if their effective ownership, which is the total ownership of these players in and around your rank and in total, right? So if you see that, and if it's probably more than 100%, that means you'll start losing out whenever these guys score. And that is what was happening last week. A lot of people triple captained Kane. A lot of in fact, majority. I was reading some crazy stat where people were saying that there were about 97-98% people who captained Kane last week, right? And about 20 to 30% people triple captained him. So his effective ownership was ideally more than 200%. That means if someone is not having Kane, he is losing the double points of whatever Kane is scoring, right? And that's a huge loss. In fact, that's you're going to be really really brave not to have a Kane for example in that particular week. So I think it's a risk. I can definitely lose out on rank because if Salah's ownership is again more than 100%. I think I'll start losing out some points, but I think it's still a calculated risk. It's not something very out of the blue. And I still feel that there would be some people who would be captaining him this week, because if they want to go differential, if they want to do something different, I think Iheanacho provides the best route among all the options available, right? So I think yeah, so that will be my take on this. Haskaran, hey, hi. You're really confused between Iheanacho and Salah. I think I've kind of covered that, so I'll probably just quickly summarize what I covered earlier. Uh, if you want to play safe, definitely go Salah. He would be the more popular option. But there is a good chance that he gets a goal or gets even an assist. The fact that Phillips is not playing in this one and Fabinho might drop in back at the centre back position, I think that is my only concern with Salah giving Salah the captaincy. Having said that, he's still a decent option, and if even if Jota, let's say if Jota plays, or even if he doesn't play, right, a Newcastle team whose attacking numbers have improved, but defensively they're still one of the worst or one of the poor teams in the league, right? So it's definitely a fixture to target. But if you want to do something different, if you are catching up on rank, if you are lagging behind in terms of your mini league, and if you want to probably take a risk, right? So I think my bet or my take would be definitely go for Iheanacho. Yeah, Akshat, I'm gonna make a separate video, and I definitely want everyone, to probably share their opinions, even if you want to share it right away. And in this video, right, you can do so. Would be happy to discuss about it more. And yeah, that video will definitely be out pretty soon. So yeah, looking forward to that as well. Uh, yeah. So Rabi, your question is: I have three Liverpool. You have three Leicester, Liverpool, and one Man United. Bruno, okay. Uh, you're inclined to captain Bruno. I think Bruno is a decent option. I don't think so. He's a pretty I would not probably put him in the top two for sure, but I think he's still a good option. I think his overall underlying numbers have been pretty decent. I think he's been performing okay. He's not gotten the assists and he's not gotten the goals. He's still on penalties, and I think United has not gotten a penalty over the last 3 or 4 weeks, something like that. Right, so United definitely is due in terms of a penalty. So I think there is scope there. Again, it's not going to be like the last game. So if you're expecting this to be a United 6-2, I think it was 6-2 last time. So if you're expecting that kind of a score, it's definitely not going to happen. I think it's going to be a close game. Leeds have tightened up at the back. They're still conceding a lot of shots, right? So that's something to look out for. But I think in terms of goals conceded, they've tightened up at the back. They've got decent results against City, Chelsea, and even Liverpool, right? So I don't see this as a very high scoring game. Probably a 2-1 to United, probably something like that. But yeah, if you want to captain Bruno, I think he's still going to be the second or the third most popular captain this week, because a lot of people would think of him as a safer option, right? So you can go for him if you are looking for a safe player. Um, I think the main issue with Vardy, and Satya, thanks for the question. It's an interesting question. Why are a lot of people considering Iheanacho over Vardy, right? So now, if you look at both players and if you look at the underlying stats for the past few weeks, right? Vardy has he's been unlucky to not score, because if you look at his expected goals, I think it's somewhere around 3 in the last 5 or 6 game weeks, right? And that's pretty decent for a forward, for any forward for that matter, right? He's been unlucky not to get goals, not to get more goals. It's just that he's been a lot more creative. His I won't say he's sat back, but he's supported Iheanacho in such a way where Iheanacho's giving, getting all the big chances, and then he's converting those big chances, right? So I still feel Brendan Rodgers is not gonna definitely bench him. He's not gonna change the system, because the system seems to work fine for now. In terms of the opponents, again, you could argue that even Vardy could get a double, or he could get a few assists, right? If you look at assists, an assist gives you 3 points, a goal gives you 4 points if it's scored by a forward, right? So that is there. But I think apart from that, one could argue that there's not much to differentiate. I definitely didn't have Vardy. Probably if I had Vardy, I would have gone there. I was definitely trying to get him in my team. And I think that could have been an option, because again, not a lot of people would have probably gone for Vardy considering his form, right? If you look at his form and if you look at his points return, it's definitely a lot lower than Iheanacho, right? So and that would be one of the reasons that a lot of people would not be thinking of captaining Vardy, though he still got a couple of double-digit hauls. I think he got 13 points against Sheffield, and he got 10 points in the last game against West Brom, right? But I think because of so many blanks over the last few weeks, and because of him taking that creative role, I think a lot of people have that opinion. He's still a decent option. I don't have him, so I can't go for him, and that's why I've gone for Iheanacho. I think again, it depends on you, right? So if among both, if you're also looking for another differential aspect, right? Because Iheanacho would be a popular one, Vardy would be not so popular. So if you want to, again, if you want to take a few risks, if you want to do catch up, or if you are lagging behind in the league, I think Vardy is also a good option for captaincy. Alonso to Castagna for a hit. I think Alonso is not going to start a lot in the coming games. There is the Champions League to play as well. Uh, and there would be the FA Cup final as well, right? So there are games and there would be a lot of rotation. I think if definitely there's no point of getting Alonso for sure, but I think even if you have Alonso, Castagna has better fixtures. He's more assured to start, and I think Castagna is a better option for sure. So Alonso to Castagna, I think it looks like a good move to me. Removing Ibrahim, hi, thanks for the question. Removing Aspie for Robbo, can't afford Trent. Removing Nat Phillips for Holding and Mount for Greenwood. Good deal on that. Removing Aspie for Robbo. Okay. I think Robertson, I would probably not go for Robertson. The kind of money that they both cost, right? And the returns that they're getting, I think there's a huge difference. Robertson hasn't really looked that attacking. Most of the attacks that Liverpool is having is from Trent's side, and that's why Mane is getting a lot of big chances also as well, right? So I still don't see that much value in Robertson. Obviously, you'll still get a clean sheet point, or you'll get those clean sheet points as well. But I still feel he's a lot more expensive. So I'll probably not do Robertson. I think Nat Phillips. So Nat Phillips is, again, a lot of people ask me whether to remove Nat Phillips in their teams or not, right? Now Nat Phillips doesn't look like he was back in training, but it doesn't look like that he's gonna miss a lot. He might miss probably one more game, and at that value, I think, and at that value, plus considering the fixtures that Liverpool have, right? I don't think so. I would probably want to remove him from my team. I'll probably bench him this time. Even if you don't have 11 players this week, it's absolutely fine, because a lot of people won't have 11 players this week, considering they would have doubles or even triple up on Man City and Tottenham. So I think a lot of people are going to take a lot of hits, and let's say if you have six or even five or six players from these two teams, right, you won't be changing all of them. So and that would probably leave you with less than 11 players. So I think I would personally not go for Robertson. And I think Nat Phillips to Holding again. I don't see a lot of value in having an Arsenal defender, to be very honest. I wanted a cheaper defender, which probably I can take a chance on, like weeks like these, right, where other people are blanking. I think this is what Holding was for, but I still don't kind of trust the Arsenal defense, and I'll probably trust a Wolves defender right now than trusting an Arsenal defense. Even considering their fixtures overall are better than Wolves, I don't think so that they're gonna keep a lot of clean sheets. Plus, Holding also doesn't have a lot of attacking threat, right? So he's at a good price for sure, but I don't think so. I would go for these moves. Mount for Greenwood looks interesting because Mount again is a very safe player, so depends on how you want to play the game. If you want to play it safe, Mount is a good option. The fixtures are mixed, but he's one of the only attackers that is probably assured in terms of starts, right? So you're gonna get that safety in terms of starts with Mount. He's definitely not a player who's gonna give you big hauls like a Havertz would, right? So I think I think Greenwood has a lot of upside. It's definitely better to have him, and considering that Rashford probably is not training or might not feature, or even Cavani would have shared minutes, right? So I think Greenwood could be a good option in that case. Akshat, yeah, you mentioned that you had wildcarded. Your team is Sanchez, Foster, Trent, Castagna, Dallas, Webster. AWB, I'm assuming it's Aaron and Bissaka. Greenwood, Salah, Lingard, Son, Traore, Wadi, Kane. I think it's a decent team. Probably again, if it's the Wolves Traore, it's a good bet. Otherwise, probably not. The only team here that the only person or the only player that I probably would have doubts on would be Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I don't think so. He has that same attacking output as Shaw. So I think that would be a concern. Otherwise, this team looks decent. In terms of any changes, I think Sanchez is a very bold move, because I think a lot of people would be going for the likes of Mendy, and I'm not saying Mendy is a bad move, right? I got a lot of DMs where people were asking me whether they should change Mendy, they should shift Mendy, they should transfer out Mendy, or probably bench him. But I don't think so. Mendy is gonna be rotated further. I think it was a one-time rest that he got. I don't think so. There's any problems there. So I think in terms of keepers, it's a decent bet. You still have to figure out how you deal with the last few weeks, because I think Brighton have really tough fixtures by the end of the season. I think they have West Ham in 36, and I think it's Man City or Arsenal. I don't remember the order, but I think it's Man City and Arsenal in the last two. So I think you'll still have to figure out. Foster didn't start the last game, so not really sure whether he's assured in terms of starts. Probably McCarthy, would take over and would be starting on a regular basis. Again, it's not very clear there. I don't see there was an injury or any doubt in terms of him carrying a knock or anything, but I think overall it's a doubt. So I think you'll probably have to think in terms of whether how you wanna tackle Sanchez, right? So that is something that probably you should give a thought to. Castagna, Dallas, I think they're good moves. Webster as well, the same. Webster as well, 33, 34, 35 look pretty good. But if you plan to bench him for the last 2 or 3 weeks, I think that works out decent. Trent is a good player as well. So I think overall, I think it's a good uh, team. It has a good mix of differentials as well. Craig, hi. Your question is Bamford and Son to Vardy and Trossard, or Son and Rafinha to Greenwood and Trossard. So it's Bamford and Son to Vardy and Trossard. Okay. Or Son and Rafinha to Greenwood and Trossard. So I think I would probably keep Bamford. He's definitely gonna start most of the games that are coming up. I think Rafinha probably misses this one or probably even the next one. Not sure, because Bielsa generally likes to play with a team who trains on a regular basis. So if he's not back in training, if he's still taking time, I think then Rafinha probably is somebody that you would want to replace. If you ask me who's the better player, I think Rafinha is definitely the better player out of the two. In terms of who you planning to get, I think Trossard. Again, this was another question that was asked to me a lot in this particular week, because of the fixture that Brighton have. Sheffield is definitely a team to target, but you'll probably have to think in terms of whether this is a long term move or whether this is a 1 week punt or something like that, right? Because if it's a 1 week punt, I don't think so. There's a lot of value. You still have the last three fixtures to navigate, which is West Ham, Man City, and Arsenal. So I think there's a thought to be put there. But I think in terms of overall, what would you go for? I think Trossard definitely is a decent pick, and in terms of the other player, I think you could probably go for Vardy, right? Because he's been performing decent. He's been playing well, so you could go for that first option. Vardy and Nacho, I think I've already kind of covered that. If you Among the two, if you want to play a bit safer, I think a lot of people would be going for Iheanacho. Vardy is one of the most transferred players this week, so I think people would be getting him for this particular fixture. So I think if you want to play safe among the two, I think Iheanacho would be the safer option. It just feels weird to say that, right? Because captaining Iheanacho is never a safe option, right? But I think among the two, mostly people are gonna captain Iheanacho. I think my pick, I personally have done Iheanacho because of not having Vardy. But if I had the option, I think I would probably go for Vardy. It's a risk worth taking. Again, depends on your position and what kind of what's your objective from now till the end of the season. Uh, Hey Praveen, hi. Keep or sell Rafinha. Is he ruled out this week? He's definitely ruled out this week. He's not going to start for sure. Whether he's on the bench or not, I don't think so. He would be on the bench because he's not really trained over the past week or so. So I think if you still have him, because their fixtures are not that bad, right? The fixtures are pretty decent in the coming weeks. They have Brighton, which again is the last game against Brighton was a very bad game. I remember seeing that game and I felt that what the hell are Leeds doing? It was a pretty difficult watch, but I think they still have the ability to score against any team, right? They've scored against the likes of Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool. They could also score against United. So I think overall, if you again, it depends on if you want to target anyone else, or what kind of plans do you have for that particular player. But I think in case if that's not the case, I think holding Rafinha could also be a decent option, considering the kind of value you will be getting out of him. Um, yeah, so going to have Sanchez and then bring Areola. I think Areola is a good option. In fact, I was talking about Areola as a pick this week. A lot of people were asking me whether to replace him and probably get someone else, but I think he's gonna have a decent week, even if he doesn't have a clean sheet, right? uh, which again I think it's a difficult possibility. But I think overall Ariola is a decent option. I don't think so. He still gets some save points. He might not get clean sheets, but I think overall there's not a lot of upside with goalkeepers, right? So you don't see keepers assisting, or you don't see keepers getting bonuses in most game weeks, apart from Martinez, right? Because Martinez has been probably the anomaly in this particular case. He's probably the only different case that I think has happened this season, where a lot of games he's had double digit hauls, he's made a lot of saves, he's got save points even if he's not got clean sheets, right? So but I think that's a decent option. um Bruno to Greenwood, I think that's what I had in mind when I got Greenwood. Varun, thanks for the question. uh I think it's a decent move, probably not this week. Greenwood is a good player. He's gonna get more minutes. Whether he gets a start every week, again, that's very debatable. I cannot sit here and tell you with 100% surety that Greenwood is gonna play every minute of the league and in the remaining games, right? So I don't think that that's a possibility, but I still think at least in the last few weeks he's shown and he's proved to be a better pick, and people who've kind of made that move have benefited a lot because Bruno has not been returning, right? So I think overall I would not do that this week, considering that it's Leeds, and surprising that we talk about Leeds now in such a way where we don't expect them to concede a lot of goals, right? So but there's still a chance that Bruno might get something out of this game. I would still probably hold on to this week. Next week again it's Liverpool, so that's again going to be a tricky game. But I probably won't make the move this particular week, because they have some decent fixtures coming up as well. So they have the likes of Aston Villa, Leicester, Fulham, Wolves, and Bruno's not going to get rested in any of those, right? Mostly he's not going to get rested in these kind of games. So I think not probably won't make that move this week. Akash, thanks for the question. Your question is thoughts between Mane and Salah pick. I think it's pretty obvious that the popular one is going to be Salah. His returns are definitely better than what Mane has returned over the past few weeks. And this season I think it's generally been it's generally not been a very tricky or a difficult call to make, right? Because I remember in I think the last season it was a bit tricky, and we've had seasons where it's been difficult to choose between Mane and Salah because their numbers are very identical. They play, they score a lot. They also assist, so their returns are pretty decent. And the best part is that, or I would say the worst part is that their price is also pretty similar, right? So in general, their prices have been pretty similar. So I think it's a tough call to make generally. But I think this season it's been clearly Salah, especially the form that he showed earlier in the season. I think it was pretty clear that he's going to be the player to kind of focus on for the season, or for the coming weeks at least. So I think if you really want to take a chance and if you want to go differential, I think Mane is an okay option, considering again the run that Liverpool's having. I think Mane could be a decent and a powerful differential, but I think if I'm investing close to 11.5, or I think he's probably 11.7, 11.8, something around that. So if I'm investing that much money, I'll probably look at some other cheaper options and uh, you know provide a better balance to my overall team, because it's just not about having that one player, right? You also have to think about what it does to your overall balance, because if you're letting go of Mane, if you're getting Mane, you're letting go of Salah. Not sure whether you will have Jota or not, but I still feel Salah would be my pick. He's definitely more popular, so there's a lot to lose more. Again, if you don't really, so okay, two cases, right? So if you don't have anything to play for in the season, if your rank is probably you're far behind and you have a lot of catch up to do, you probably can take that chance. He might still give you some points, and the rank gain would be a lot higher than probably whatever you would from Salah. But again, if you are playing safe and if you wanna be assured of points and if you don't want to take a lot of chances, right? I think Salah would be my pick. The upcoming double game weeks, yeah. So that's a very interesting, conversation. Again, it's not confirmed, but we are expecting that the coming game weeks have a double game week and a blank game week. It's in fact going to be very very tricky because a lot of teams that are playing, I think, and who have a double in 35, they have a blank in 36, right? So I think that's going to be a bit tricky, and the teams, again, if you want to know more about double game week and what kind of fixtures are there in the double game week, I think it will be good for you to follow Ben Crellin on Twitter. If you guys are on Twitter, I think you should definitely give him a follow, because he mentioned that teams like Chelsea, or teams like Liverpool, teams like probably Manchester United, these teams have a chance of a double game week, and they all blank next week. So the teams like Aston Villa, Crystal Palace, Everton, Southampton, these teams, they're not owned by a lot of people, and we generally don't have a lot of assets from these teams, but and it's going to be a little difficult to get these players, right? Because these teams have a double game week. Teams like Arsenal, Chelsea, Leicester, Man United, where we have a lot of players, right? They are blanking, or they possibly can blank in game week 36. So I think it's Arsenal versus Chelsea, and then I think it's Leicester versus Man United. So these two fixtures could be a blank. But yeah, it's probably about 60 to 70% confirmed. But again, so till the time it's not confirmed, probably we'll get into more detail once it's confirmed. The news could be out next week, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so Bruno or Iheanacho, I think out of the two, if you have to choose one, I think Iheanacho would be a better pick this week, and even in the next coming weeks, right? I generally feel that Iheanacho has the ability to outscore Bruno in the next few weeks. Iheanacho, Vardy or Salah for captaincy. Salah safe pick. Iheanacho would be a differential, and if you really wanna go uber differential, right? I think Vardy would be that pick. So in order of these categories, I think you can take your pick. Trent or Iheanacho, I think the upside with Trent is more. Plus, he gets that clean sheet points as well, which Iheanacho would not. Along with any kind of attacking returns, let's say if he gets an attacking return or if he gets a clean sheet, right? There's a huge possibility that he also gets those bonus points. So I think there's a huge upside with Trent. So if you want to take that chance, I think Trent could be the option here. Why do Lacazette for a -4 hit? I think it's a decent move. Lacazette is definitely not gonna feature in the coming time, and you could benefit from Vardy in the coming weeks. Abhitej, thank you for the question. So you could go for Vardy even if it's for a hit, because I think this week a lot of people would be taking hits, right? So I think it's a decent. Even if you don't, I still feel that you will still get some benefit out in this week. But even if you don't get huge benefits this week, I think it's still a decent player to own for the coming few weeks. Shelly, hi. Do you think bringing a Brighton midfielder, sorry, midfielder forward is worth considering it's their short-term fixtures? I still think Brighton. I would not probably get a Brighton defender. I would definitely not get a Brighton defender for the coming few weeks. I think this is still a good game for a clean sheet, and you still might get something out of it. If you already have them, definitely play them in your team. In terms of midfielders and forwards, I think a lot of people are talking about Trossard. So if you already have him, I think it's a good move to play him. But if it's a short one week punt, I don't think so. It's worth it. If you still want to take that chance, I think the likes of Neil Maupay or even Danny Welbeck, right? They are decent options considering the next 2 to 3 weeks. I would probably still not get them. I think they're still better options because midfield is very premium and they're very premium spots this year, right? So you would not want to probably take that chance. They're better options. They're more long-term options. If you want to take a 1 week or a 2 week punt, I think then it's okay. But in the longer scheme of things, I don't think so. It's a good move. Sanchez or Martinez for keeper. I think I would still say I think Sanchez or Martinez. That's a close call. Martinez gives you more save points. Again, Sanchez also has the ability to get you decent points. I think I would probably go for Sanchez in this week. I still think West Brom have the ability to score against uh, you know Aston Villa this week. So I think I would go for Sanchez. Vardy or Salah for captain. I think I've already covered Firaz. I think if you want to play safe, Salah is the captain for you. If you want to take a chance and be a little different from the crowd, I think Vardy is the one to go for. Madison to Jota, your thoughts? I think it's a good move. Madison, again, not very, very sure uh, in terms of what to expect from Madison. He's returned. I think his minutes are going to improve and he's going to play more regularly now. But I still don't see him as a very great option in terms of FPL, right? So I think Jota is going to give you more attacking returns. Jota is probably in terms of minutes, I would still say Jota or I think it's a close one in terms of minutes and in terms of starts. There's not really a clear winner, but I think in terms of returns, Jota or Madison for sure. Yeah. Yeah. A couple of we can still take a couple of questions. So guys, if you have any questions, please let me know in the chat. I really hope that you guys have fixed your teams. I think it's a couple of minutes to go from the deadline till the deadline. So if you haven't, make sure that you save your teams. A lot of times it happens that people don't save their teams, and they don't check that, and when they actually look at their teams, it's the older team that they had probably last week. Make sure you have the right captains. Make sure you have the right vice captains. Uh, Make sure you've made your transfers and all your teams are fixed. What's a surprise? Yeah, we didn't mention. I didn't cover that. I think there's gonna be. So yeah, so I'll probably wait for a couple of minutes in case if there are any more questions, because there are a couple of minutes to go, and I'll just kind of cover what I have in mind. I think it's going to be a really important and a really interesting thing. I think not sure whether people are doing it or not. Haven't really done uh, but they've not really kind of ventured into that space. I'm honestly, Abhitesh, thank you for that question again. I think it's a valid, concern. I'm a little concerned about Amate not starting probably this one, and I don't think so he's going to start. So if any one of my players do not start, right, I really don't have a bench. But I think taking him out this week, probably for a different defender, was not my plan, and I would want to save that money and want to have that flexibility for the coming doubles and the blanks. So I think it's a risk for sure, and I'm a little worried about that. But that's what it is, and I was definitely, because he's more of a filler defender than anything else. Uh, Kane's form, given the ankle injury, I think he's still gonna be decent. A lot of people are thinking of selling him. I personally, I would hold him. I don't think so. That he still might feature in the EFL final. I still think it's a difficult proposition, but I think it's worth holding him for the next few. For at least I think if he's fine, I think he's gonna be in my team till the end of the season, right? Because I don't think so his form ever drops. To be very honest, even if he's returned from injury this season as well, right? He's generally not taken a lot of time to come to bases in terms of how he's performing in Tottenham's attack, because Tottenham really struggled without Kane. At least they have done that when Mourinho was managing them. So I don't think so it's gonna drop, and I think he's still gonna be a good option, a decent option, and I definitely feel that he's worth holding on to. So yeah, so I think that will be all in terms of questions. Just in case if you have any topics or anything to discuss, we can definitely dive into that. Uh, we can talk about any particular topics you have in mind. I'm gonna have prepare a lot of content in terms of next week as well. I think next week you probably might also get some confirmation about the double game week and the blank game weeks. I think it's gonna be a very tricky situation, because as I mentioned that a lot of teams who are having a double in 35, they're blanking in 36, right? So it's gonna be a tricky situation for a lot of us. Bale, I think Bale, I would still, if you still want to take a punt, I think Bale is still a decent option. And when Bale becomes a decent option, I think Son's numbers, generally have suffered this season. He wasn't starting lately in Mourinho's teams because of a lot of things that happened. I'm not gonna really get into a lot there, but I think Ryan Mason would still want to test out Bale. Not sure whether he's gonna be back for another season with Tottenham, but I think Mason generally likes Bale and his abilities. So I think he's gonna definitely start him in a few games. He's gonna probably get him from the bench, but and he definitely has the ability to score or even assist even when he comes from the bench, right? We've seen that in the past. We've seen that this season as well. So I think if you want to go for a huge differential and a Tottenham differential, I think Bale is probably a decent option. I wouldn't have said that if Mourinho was around, especially considering how things have gone between the two. But I think with Mason and his liking towards Bale, I think it's a decent option. Wolves defense, Baron, I think if you have them, definitely play them. I think the wildcarders who wildcarded in 31, 32, those weeks, they've really benefited from it. I didn't go for a Wolves defense, and I think I probably regret that part of my decision making. But I think in general, you probably would have missed the boat on Wolves defenders, because this week I think it's a bit tricky. Burnley again are not a very easy side to defend against. So I don't think so. They would get a clean sheet in this particular week. And overall, I feel their fixtures change, right? Their fixtures are turning. So I would anyways won't be a long hold. So I would probably look at some other defenders if I can. Jota or Salah will play in the starting line. I think Aaron, hi, thanks for the question. I think this week it's definitely Salah, considering we've heard a lot around Jota's injury, and he picking up a knock. He probably not starting this week. So I think among the two, Salah would generally have more minutes. He would have more playing time. He's more fixed in terms of a starting place in Klopp's 11 for sure. Akshat, something off topic. Who do you think we will see in the final of Champions League? And that's a very interesting question. I think all of us and people who are interested in the Champions League can also, put in their comments and put in their preference. I think it's a tricky one, to be very honest, because we have some decent teams. We have the likes of Real Madrid, we have Chelsea, we have PSG and Man City. I personally would have wanted a final between PSG and Man City. Again, that's not possible. But I think in general, I would definitely not want to see Madrid, right? Because sorry Madrid fans, and I don't have anything against Madrid. I love the club. I love the time when Ronaldo was there. Being a United fan, I love that. But I don't have anything against Madrid. But I generally want to see a different team in the final this time, right? So uh, having PSG and PSG winning is also going to be huge, right? Imagine the likes of Pochettino, trying that with Tottenham, not achieving that, and then going to PSG and then getting that. That's going to be a huge story, right? So I would like PSG to win. From a Premier League fan, let's say if you are a Premier League fan, I think you would want the likes of Chelsea. But I think among the two, I would want PSG to win. Let me know your thoughts as well. Man City, like being a United fan, I don't think so. I would ever say that Man City winning the Champions League, right? Pep has been trying that for a few years now, and I think their ultimate success, or the ultimate story that comes out of it, would be if City win the Champions League, because they've won the Premier League under Pep, right? So that's nothing. That's not going to be a new feeling, or that's not going to be a new space for them. But yeah, definitely winning the Champions League is going to be huge. I still feel they are a pretty strong team this season, and it's going to be a good match, to be very honest. I think both games are going to be really good, but I really hope PSG wins at this time. Rahul, hi. Yeah, I think I mentioned that on my Instagram channel as well. Klopp has said that Jota is fit. Again, does that correlate to him starting this game? Not really sure. There could be a chance. There could be a slight chance that he's probably on the bench for this one. But I think there should not be any panic, to be very honest, right? Because a lot of times it happens that we get some news and we hear some rumors. First of all, don't believe those rumors. Till a time, you should always wait for official confirmation. You should always wait for press releases and press conferences and whatever managers say in these press conferences. And even if it's not long term, right? And if you want to hold that player, if you feel that he can give you some decent points, he can come back and he can perform well for you. I think you should definitely hold these kind of players. So yeah, Varun, I didn't read your comment. Sorry for that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you praising me. We've been doing this for some time. I've again, as I mentioned, in the early part of my stream, I've got a lot of good people following me. I've got a lot of feedback. So many people. When I started, I'll be honest, when I started this whole channel, right, I didn't really know what to expect from this, because I have been following football for many years. Right, it's been probably 1.5 decades now, and I always wanted to do something in football. Probably some sort of writing, some sort. I also played football, and I've been playing football for a long time now. So, but yeah, I always wanted to do something in this regard. Didn't have any expectations, to be honest. Just wanted to show my love for the game and connect with a lot of people who share the same feeling. So, and it's been a wonderful journey so far. And really enjoy making content, talking about stuff on videos, on streams, and then that's why I love streams, right? And I probably feel that I should have done this a long time before, because I love connecting with people. I love talking to people who love the game, who have a passion about the sport. Love connecting with those guys. Love talking to you every week, and it's a wonderful feeling, to be very honest, right? So, and I really hope and I really wish it grows and grows every year. It's been growing so far, and expecting a lot of things to kind of go the right way next year as well. So thanks for that. Yeah, Pochettino, Varun, you're right. He deserves it at least once. Like if if not more, at least once. I don't even feel that it's because of PSG, right? My liking or my feeling for PSG winning is not because of PSG for sure, but it definitely has to do with a lot with Pochettino, because he's been a great coach. Like he's been a good manager, and he was unlucky not to win anything at Tottenham. But yeah, if him winning him winning the Champions League is gonna be huge. Alaba to Madrid, yeah, that's a huge. I think it's already confirmed. Yeah, it's confirmed, and it's gonna be a huge transfer. I think it's a huge loss for Bayern as well, right? Uh, they're gonna miss him. I think Madrid is definitely getting a great player, and he's definitely one of the best defenders in the world right now. That's a huge transfer. Inacho or Bruno Cap, I think covered it at different intervals during the stream today. But I think if you want to play safe, again, it's so whenever you're deciding captaincy, it's always whether you want to go safe or you want to try something different, right? There's always a differential route. You'll always have at least one player which will confuse you during the whole week, whether to captain him or not, whether to take a chance on him or not, because he's been performing well, right? But because he's probably not a highly owned player, or because he's not very high in price, I think you would probably not captain him, and you would always go for the safer pick. But I, as an FPL manager, and again, you might be very different, but I, as an FPL manager, I always like to take punts and take certain risks. Those are calculated risks. Obviously, there's a huge amount of things probably not going your way when you're taking these kind of chances. But I think it's FPL, right? You can be serious about it, but there's always a fun element in the game, and you should definitely have fun while playing the game, and that's what the whole game is, right? So I think in terms of these two, I would definitely go Iheanacho over Bruno. I personally don't have Bruno as well, so I cannot do that move. But even if I had Bruno, I think I would have gone for Iheanacho. So we'll probably wait for a couple of more questions, and then we'll sign off. In case, guys, if you haven't posted any kind of questions, please let me know in the comments below. Bayern targeting, yeah, Akshat. Bayern targeting Ajax coach. I am not really sure of this. To be very frank, I don't know what the exact situation there is, so probably would not be able to comment on that. I haven't really read a lot, to be very frank. Probably I'll do some reading and get back to you on that. But on big signings for United to please fans with the whole Super League fiasco, I think United has always been a team who's been very. There are always rumors about United, signing the likes of Sancho, or signing Bruno was also, it went on for quite some time. We finally got him. Thank God for that. But United as a team has always been about big players, right? You always have these academy players coming up. You always have these young guns, coming up and doing really well for the team. But I think overall, it's always been about commercial value, about the kind of money that these players can get into the team, right? And plus, obviously, it also pleases the fans, as you correctly mentioned, Varun. So I think I don't think so. Because of the Super League, it's gonna happen. I don't think so. A lot of things would change because of the Super League, and at least the transfer strategy would change because of Super League. I still feel with Woodward going, I think there is definitely going to be a huge shift in terms of how we think, how we approach transfers, how we end and negotiate deals. I think I assume and I really hope as a United fan that happens in a better way, and I really hope that things don't really go south after Woodward resigns. But I think not going to change much because of the European Super League. We'll still continue to target players like Sancho and some of the very big players, right? Because obviously they're world class players. United is a world class club. They expect a certain level of quality in terms of whatever squad they have, right? And it's been time since we've had a lot of world class players in our team. Like if you look at the squad, it's a decent squad. I won't still say it's probably whatever position we have right now in the league. It's probably fair to say that yeah, we deserve that. But in terms of the distance between Man City and United this season, I think it's still very justifiable because of the squad strength that's Simply City have, right? It's massive. But yeah, I think big signings are definitely going to be a part of the conversation. Ryan Mason making his job permanent, I honestly don't feel it's gonna happen. Not sure, like because it's Tottenham definitely would want to target a bigger manager. There are a few options available, so it's not that nobody is available for the Tottenham job. I've been reading a lot of rumors about certain managers, so I doubt that Mason's gonna continue as the team boss or the team manager for the next season. I think he's gonna finish that, but hopefully Tottenham get someone decent, because the way Mourinho leaves and the way he let things happen, right? Whenever he's exited any club, whether it's Chelsea, whether it's United, whether it's Tottenham, the condition is really bad. And I think more than anything, I was in fact seeing a few pods, and there were a few discussions in some of the pods where they were talking about there's always a manager bounce where whenever any coach exits, right? The team starts performing a lot better. The shackles are off. If you're defending too much, you'll probably attack more. Your tactics change, the whole mindset and the whole atmosphere changes. So I think there's always a manager bounce, but with Mourinho, it's like whatever manager you get, right? It doesn't matter because there's always going to be a manager bounce after Mourinho leaves. The dressing room and the atmosphere is so bad that things change rapidly, and I think that's what we saw in Tottenham's last game as well. In spite of Harry Kane not being in the team, I think Tottenham still, they were bad for sure. They didn't play a great game, but I think they still attacked more. They tried attacking a lot more than they were under Mourinho. So I think there would be a lot of changes already. But I personally don't feel that he's gonna retain his place, or he's gonna continue as Tottenham's boss. But United spends when we don't qualify for Champions League. Else the spend is, yeah, that's true. It's just weird. I don't understand. Uh, I've technically I've been following the club obviously for a very long time, but I've really not understood what we've done in the transfer market over the past few years. Definitely Bruno was I think I can't even imagine, and I can't even tell you how I feel when thinking that if Bruno's not there, what's going to happen to the club, right? It's just crazy. That's how he's performed this season. That's how well he's done for United this season. But I think otherwise, I really don't know how we do our transfer business, right? Because having a player like Van de Beek in our team, who's a very talented player, and it's not that we've not seen that, right? In Ajax, we've kind of seen that a lot. Like, and if you've been following Ajax as a club, and I think you'll know it the best possible way, that he's done very well in United setup. Obviously, he's not getting a chance. Again, the position that the position that Solskjaer wants to play him is still not very sure. He's still waiting to see out what kind of how the team plays with Pogba, without Pogba. Obviously, Fernandes is a huge part of the conversation, and I don't think so he's going to go anywhere. So whether to play, obviously he can't play Van de Beek in Fernandes's position. That's also not an option. Then he cannot even play him as a CDM or even as a number six, right? So I think it's a tricky position for Van de Beek. I personally feel that if this is what's going to happen to him, he should not stay in United. There are better clubs and there are better places to go where he can actually benefit a lot more. He can get regular minutes, and he's definitely a classy player. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, I personally don't understand how Woodward has been conducting his business. And like, we need a right winger. We definitely need a decent right winger. We've been after Sancho. We probably need another good centre back. I really don't think so. Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof are United quality centre backs, right? Even Harry Maguire, he's probably the best centre back that we have right now. And I might, there might be a lot of discussion around it. There might be a lot of debate around it that, United probably deserves better defenders than Harry Maguire, right? Come on, he's England's number one centre back, right? Along with probably Stones at the moment. So it's a tricky situation here, and I personally feel that there should be better focus on, and I'm sure a lot of fans across the world, people who follow football, they would also understand that we need to kind of focus our energies in the right direction when it comes to United. Yeah, so I kind of covered that in terms of Van de Beek for United, and I agree with that, right? They've I don't think so. That'll ruin his career definitely, because he can always ask for a transfer request and he can go elsewhere. But I think, yeah, this has been a waste for United and for Van de Beek. I think mostly it's been for Van de Beek, to be very honest. What's next for Jose? Hey Praveen, very interesting question. I think I I I've been thinking about this a lot, to be very honest, right? In terms of what happens to him, because his he's come and gone out of the Premier League. He's been to Premier League. He came obviously to Chelsea, and he became he was obviously Mourinho at that time. But like, more and more people started believing in his ideologies, his project, and the way he handles and the way he did things. And obviously he made Chelsea what Chelsea is right now, right? So but I think overall, I still feel that he probably has lost a lot of it with time. Like, his tactics, the way he handles the media, the way he handles things at the clubs, the way he runs his training, whatever conversations he's had with, and I've read about it a lot. The way he's probably running things with in terms of injuries, in terms of playing players, in terms of how, whatever way he's doing things whenever he's managing a club. I don't think so I see him back in the Premier League, to be very honest. He's managed Chelsea, he's managed Man United, he's managed Tottenham. In fact, to be very honest with you, him coming to Tottenham was a huge surprise. So I didn't really expect him to come down to Tottenham. And now, when I say Tottenham, I don't really expect him to come to Arsenal, because I think probably the only club that is left for him to come to would be Arsenal. But Arsenal, again, no offense to any Arsenal fans, but Arsenal as a club are in such a bad shape right now. I really don't think so. They would want to go for someone like a Mourinho, because yes, he's a serial winner. Yes, he's won trophies. Yes, he's won championships and Champions League with teams where nobody expected them to win. Right? They were always the underdogs and they were always the underperformers. But he's definitely won those things with decent teams in the past. So you would kind of expect that the same, and I think that's the reason Tottenham also went for him, because with Pochettino they were not able to win trophies, and Mourinho was that serial winner. But I don't think so he has it in him anymore. I genuinely don't feel he's gonna come back in the Premier League. I don't see him managing a top 8 or a top 10 kind of a club. Again, if that happens, I'll be very surprised. He'll probably go to Italy again. I'm not very sure about how things go there, but I don't see him at least back in the Premier League for some time. Portugal, as you mentioned, maybe because that's his country, right? So he might want to go to Portugal, but again, I don't think so. He's still, at least to me, he would still feel that he has it in him, and he would still be confident of managing a big club. Obviously, now I think he has three sackings to his name, right? In the last three clubs, and at least from a Premier League point of view, those doors probably would be closed. But I still don't see him going to Portugal, because though it's his home country and he would want to probably end his career there, but again, I still don't think though it's the end of Mourinho. He, at least for him, I don't think so he would not feel that. Yeah, spend enough to keep sponsors happy. That's what Glazers are doing. And I and I think at least a couple of things that happened decent uh because of this whole European Super League fiasco was, we saw a lot of conversations where people, I think it's been happening for quite some time now, where people want the Glazers out, right? They want a new direction. They want the club to not repeat the same mistakes every year, which we've been doing so far. And I'll be very frank to admit and talk about it. So we definitely need a new direction. We need a new space. And I think, but I don't think so. Glazers would be that keen to sell the club, right? It's gonna be a tricky situation. Happy if it happens, but don't think so. It'll happen. Yeah, Akshat, that's a very, very, very good point that you made. So you're saying that don't you think Bruno gets overshadowed by Pogba in terms of FPL? I think it's in general FPL definitely. We've seen that whenever Pogba is playing, Bruno's creativity and his influence reduces a lot, right? A lot of things also flow from Pogba, the team. Whenever Bruno is playing, right, and let's say Pogba is not playing, the focal point is Bruno. Whatever flows in any of United's attack, right, it generally flows through Bruno. Whether it's creating spaces, whether it's creating passes, whether it's taking penalties, whether it's even scoring goals, and doing a lot on the pitch, right? His work rate is immense. So Pogba definitely reduces that. We've seen that in FPL for sure. In terms of overall results, obviously to United fans, it probably won't matter that much. But from an FPL perspective, I think whenever, and that's one of the reasons he's not done well, right? In terms of returns. So I think whenever Pogba plays, his creativity is shared. A lot of things start flowing from Pogba, and he doesn't remain the focal point. So I think, yeah, from an FPL point of view, it definitely makes a huge difference. Yeah, like Nuno getting a Portugal role, I think that will be crazy. Like it well, I see Wolves and I see the half of Portugal's team, right? So it's gonna be it's probably a good match, to be honest. Nuno has managed and has done decent with the club. Obviously, last season was a lot better, and the injury to Raul Jimenez has affected them in a huge way, because most of the season they haven't had a decent striker at all, right? They've gone ahead with a couple of young boys, but I don't think so. They're long term solutions, or probably they are long term solutions. They're just not something that Wolves would want right now. But I think, yeah, Nuno probably going to Portugal. I think because he obviously has a lot of chemistry with players. He understands how all of these players work. Plus, he's spent enough time to gauge the strengths, the weaknesses of the squad, to understand what works with them, what doesn't work with them. So I think that will be a pretty decent move for him as well. Yeah, definitely agree to that. So I think we've passed the deadline. Yeah, we definitely passed the deadline. It was great talking to you guys. Had a good time. I really, really hope that you had a lot of fun as well. We'll be back with another stream next week. We'll also talk about a lot of things to do in terms of the coming weeks, and let's say if the double game weeks are announced, I will also cover that in terms of how and what could be your strategy, because again, it's a pretty tricky situation, to be very honest, right? And once it's confirmed, probably we'll get into more detail then. But I think had a great time talking to you. There was one more thing, and I think Akshat pointed out that we I was talking about a surprise, and I was talking about something that I am planning for the channel, and I'm planning in general, and it's something related to the channel. It's definitely going to be a lot of things next year. I'm not going to talk about a lot right now, but one of the things that I'm doing next year is I'm doing a short series on how to play FPL, and it's not going to be a course. It's not a paid offering or anything. It's going to be something that is out on YouTube, where we're just going to talk about obviously we're going to talk about highlights of how and what happened in terms of my season. I'm not going to talk about it a lot, but in general, for a lot of people who are, because I spoke to a lot of people this season who were playing the game for the first time, who were very new to the game, who didn't understand the nuances of what kind of moves to make. I've seen people, like, I'll tell you a few examples. I've seen people making 7 or 8 transfers and getting getting their team sorted every week, expecting that yeah, these players are going to give me points, but they don't really see the negatives that they're getting every week, right? So I've also seen those kind of things happening this season. But I am very excited about this thing. This will cover a lot about how to play FPL. It will cover from the very basics in terms of how to register, how to start the game, how to play, what kind of decisions, because a lot of times, and I think this is something that I've also learned a lot this season, in terms of when to take a hit, when not to take a hit, when to play your chips, because this season has been crazy, right? There hasn't been one perfect time of playing any chip that you have, and I think most of you would agree with me, right? There hasn't been one particular week where I've very very comfortably felt that, oh my god, I want to play wildcard this week, or I want to play bench boost this week, or I want to play triple captain chip this week. My triple captain, for example, didn't work this year, but people who captained Kane last week, they got one game and they got some decent points, but then again the next game he didn't play, right? So these kind of things where we talk about uh, what kind of chips are there and what does every chip mean, when you should play these chips, what is a differential strategy, what is that one strategy that probably could get you the highest possible rank of your playing career as in the FPL game, right? So we're going to touch upon a lot of other things as well in terms of this particular series, and I think it's going to be very very interesting. It's also going to come at a time when we would be not having FPL before the season. Obviously we will start the series. Another very interesting thing that I'm and now that we're talking about it, another very interesting thing that is something that I'm planning and I would definitely be doing is covering the Euros. There are a lot of ideas that I have in mind. If you have something in mind, or if if you want to see something when the Euros come up, right? Definitely share those with me. Share your ideas with me. You can DM me anytime. You can probably chat in one of these streams as well. There are gonna be a lot of things that will also be coming during that time, and looking forward to that. It's gonna be something really interesting, because obviously that time Premier League is not happening, and but there's football at the end of the day, right? For a lot of football fans, I think that's going to be a very very interesting stage. So have a lot of things planned in the coming time, and this is what we are doing. The Pookie party is coming. Yes, the Pookie party is coming, and really hope that we get him at a very cheap price. We get him. We all love cheap forwards, right? We've loved cheap forwards in the game. We've loved cheap forwards in the previous seasons as well. I really really hope that his price is probably around that 5 to 6 million sort of a range, and that's going to be really interesting, because when he was there in the Premier League last time, he just took everything by storm. He kind of slowed down, but then the start that he gave to FPL managers, and the managers who had him in their teams from the first week, right? And this is what I'm talking about. Targeting these kind of players, going for such players where you would probably not find them as very popular, but because of them having a good preseason, because of them being in good form, I think these kind of players also could do well. So we will cover all of these things in that series, short series that I'm talking about, and it's going to be really interesting. Thank you so much, guys, for sticking around, and people who stuck around till now, thank you so much for being around in this stream. A lot of content coming up in the next week. We will be talking about the double and the blanks as well, if we get certain announcements. So that's going to be very interesting and very important. We'll also be back with another stream next week. So I hope to see you guys there. Had a great time chatting with you. Make sure, guys, you subscribe to our channel if you've not done so far. You can also like our video if you like today's stream. Thank you so much, and I will see you in Saners next time.